We're live. Go ahead, Ben.
Welcome everyone. This is an AMA mainly regarding the SingularityNET Phase 2 proposal, which has been released recently and is going to be put to a vote of the SingularityNET community. So this is something I already introduced in another video that you can find on SingularityNET YouTube, and I've been discussing with a whole bunch of our community members over the last few days, and there's been a whole lot of questions, understandably, coming out from the community. This is a big big thing, and I want to address some of these questions here. Of course, we won't be able to get through everything, but I think I can get through a lot. And now my son is asking for his hat back. Hold on a moment. All right, my 3-year-old thought he wanted my hat, but he thought the better of it. It's too big for him. So yeah, the crux of the Phase 2 proposal is, thinking of myself and my colleagues in SingularityNet, most of whom have been in this with me since the beginning, and many for much longer, as we've been working on AI together for a long time. I mean, the crux is how to realize the original goals of the SingularityNet project, which is still our mission now, which we're working toward every day, which is creating beneficial, decentralized AGI. And we've made some real progress there in the last few years. Clearly there's a long way to go, and we just did some really hard thinking about, like, how do we maximize the odds of actually achieving these huge goals, which is a very hard thing. And of course, the last few years we've gotten a lot done. We've also lived through a cryptocurrency winter, which had a big impact on SingularityNet Foundation's finances and the SingularityNet whole token economy. We've lived through the coronavirus pandemic, or at least hopefully through the worst of it. And yeah, if you look online on the blog post we have on SingularityNet website, on SingularityNet Phase 2, you'll find a couple documents. One is a sort of financial and operational review of SingularityNet, what we're calling Phase 1, which is a portion of SingularityNet's development up till now. And you'll find a high-level financial report and some narrative discussion on that, and then a sort of rundown of some of the things we've accomplished so far. And in the document on SingularityNet Phase 2, you'll find a detailed rundown of what we're proposing and putting to the community for a vote regarding the next phase, which was also summarized in a video. So I'm sort of, in this video, AMA, I'm sort of assuming you've already absorbed some of that information, and I'm just going to plunge into answering questions that people pose. So if you haven't absorbed that other information, this will be very mysterious to you. So question: is there any other token that has done this? Not to my knowledge, and of course, doing stuff that's never been done before is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, I think we're breaking new ground, not just in our AI and our blockchain and our software, but we're breaking new ground in how to build networks and organizations. I mean, if you look at the scope of cryptocurrency projects out there, or cryptocurrency based technology or social projects, I mean, A few have been extremely successful. I mean, we've been working closely with the IOHK and Cardano. They've been extremely successful. We're learning a lot from Charles Hoskinson and his colleagues. It's an awesome project, awesome people. I mean, a lot of projects that started with token sales in say 2016, 17, 18, I mean, have ended up not doing very much, right? I mean, there's been exit scams, many of which are public, many of which have been quieter. There's been a lot of projects just sort of quietly slowing down progress and not doing nearly as much as they thought they would initially, right? And we don't want to go that route. We actually want to achieve the mission that we set out to achieve. And I mean that's really why we're looking at it this way, and why we're proposing phase 2. I mean, because we haven't become a top 10 cryptocurrency. I mean, we at some point thought we might. That hasn't happened yet. It's far from ruled out from the future. And what we're looking at now is like, how do we get from where we are now to actually growing to an incredibly massive size with the level of transformative power and influence that we planned from the beginning of the project. And I think, to be honest, not that many other cryptocurrency based projects seem to be thinking that way. So of course, just as we sort of launched the whole field of decentralized AI, once we proceed with our phase 2 proposal and people can see that this is serving a real role in helping us to grow the network in an incredible way and get massive utilization, it may be that other projects start doing related things in their own ways. Because I mean, there's many. One of the beauties and the difficulties of the whole crypto space is smart contracts are quite flexible, and different projects have, when you dig beneath the surface, quite different tokenomic structures. So I mean, the route to growth is going to be different for each project based on the particulars of how they set up. Next question: why has this decision been made right now? Well, I mean, if you look at the phase 1 report, the operational and financial report that's linked from the blog post on phase 2, I mean, you'll see where we're at now. I mean, the core team that SingularityNET Foundation has been funding to work on SingularityNET, I mean, that we're sort of at a choice point where one thing we can do is focus most energy on funded application projects. They're building AI that uses the platform, I mean, in a way that allows us to get external funding from commercial partners and customers, and that can work. But then building out the core platform is sort of secondary focus, and will happen more slowly. Or we could proceed like full speed ahead with building out decentralized AGI platform. And we looked at a number of possible ways to achieve that, and this phase 2 proposal seemed like the best one. Question: doesn't this move to create more tokens turn AGI into a security? No, I mean, completely not. The AGI token is for buying AI services on SingularityNET platform, and for incentivizing development, and for rewarding services that do good things in curation markets and reputation systems that will be rolled out with more generality in phase 2. So I mean, it's phase 2 doesn't change the fundamental nature of the token, and certainly not the utility nature of the token. I mean, the move to create AGI tokens on Cardano instead of only the AGI tokens on Ethereum, I mean, again, that will actually massively increase the utility the token, because Cardano is a much more useful blockchain than Ethereum. It doesn't, it accentuates rather than decreases the utility nature of the token. Does the foundation, next question, does the foundation have a CFO or a financial advisor? Yeah, I mean, the foundation, we have an experienced controller now who's been a controller for some large companies and some great financial advisors. Don't have a CFO at the moment, but I mean, assuming the phase 2 proposal goes through and is approved, I mean, recruiting a suitably experienced CFO with a bunch of experience on both the traditional and crypto finance sides, that is certainly near the top of the list. A lot of questions coming in here. So getting some questions in real time, which are noting that some people don't understand the basics of what I'm talking about, because people haven't read all the documents. So there's a sort of a trade-off, because if I race through a lot of questions in depth in a short period of time, then I can't give like completely full background on everything. And if I repeat the background on everything, then I can't get to the in-depth questions. So yeah, let me think about that for a moment. So yeah, let me then, since some people are unclear on the basics, I will take like 1 minute to review the basics of the phase 2 proposal, even though I've already answered a bunch of in detail questions about it. So I mean, one aspect of the phase 2 proposal, which isn't what's getting the most focus, but actually is extremely important, is beefing up of the democratic governance. I mean, we've always viewed SingularityNET from a progressive decentralization point of view. So in the end, SingularityNET really should be a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that's just controlled by, in a quite democratic, decentralized way, all the AIs and the humans that are involved in the network, right? And we're getting there step by step. It's been fairly centrally controlled by SingularityNET Foundation so far, and what we're looking at in this next phase is moving further toward democratic governance. And there's two main aspects there, really. So I'll discuss both. So I mean, one is, we've had something called the Supervisory Council in SingularityNET since the beginning. So the SingularityNET Foundation, which is a Dutch nonprofit foundation, has a sort of structure that follows on from Dutch government. So there's a governing board, and there's an executive board, and then there's staff and so forth. Supervisory Council is additional, and the idea was for it to serve as a sort of interface between token holding community and the governing board or the foundation. And I mean, that hasn't been as impactful as we were originally thinking. And some of the thinking we've done has been how to beef up the Supervisory Council so it can really play its originally intended role better, right? And so what we're looking at now is to give the supervisory council some more specific responsibilities. So, I mean, we've just released a high-level financial report for the first 3 years of the SingularityNET Foundation's operation. So from now on, we're committed to release a in-depth financial report each year, and the supervisory council will help with that. I mean, they'll review the internal financials in detail and then help prepare a financial report suitable for public release. So making sure that happens and happens with accuracy and high quality will be part of supervisory council's responsibility. And then sort of monitoring what the foundation does and how the tokens being distributed to the community to incentivize development are being utilized, which has to do with the deep funding pool that I'll talk about in a moment. I mean, this is something else the supervisory council should be carefully involved with. So comparing the roadmap and milestones to what's actually been done, comparing the goals of community incentive funding to which projects have actually been funded. And so that this I mean, the current supervisory council has been helpful and has been paying some attention on these things, but it's been more occasional advisory input than really close ongoing review. Then reviewing executive hires. So if we want to hire a CFO, COO, or high-level officers like that, the supervisory council should be involved with they should also interview those people and they should give feedback on the token holders' behalf. So, in order to ask supervisory council to do all this work, we'll also need to start compensating them something that they've been working pro bono out of their passion for the project so far. But with the supervisory council having more power, then the ability of the token holders to vote for the supervisory council has more meaning, right? So one of the governance changes that we're looking at is, so 25% of the token holders, if they give a petition, can force a vote on some issue. So, I mean, if token holders at some point, which I don't think will happen, but if at some point didn't like what was going on, they can vote for, they can call for a new supervisory council election. They can put a new supervisory council in place. Supervisory council can ask for votes on whatever they wish to, right? So we're not going to a full, totally decentralized DAO structure yet. I don't think it's time for that yet, but we're moving toward giving the token holders more power over what the foundation does, and thus over the whole direction of the project. Beefing up the supervisory council is part of that. Another part of that is the incentive funding for development, the deep funding pool, which I'll come to in a moment. So yeah, someone has made a good suggestion, which is to sort of walk through the proposal that's been put out there for voting step by step. So that may be a good way to contextualize things for folks who are only partly up to speed. Let me see if I can actually bring it up here on my screen. Yeah, so here we see voting proposal summary, which has been publicly linked. We actually updated this not that long ago based on some community feedback, which I'll talk about in a moment. So I've talked already about governance changes, increased transparency, increased role of the supervisory council. Then the introduction of Cardano-based AGI tokens is another significant aspect, and this has two parts to it, right? So, I mean, one is we're just independently of whether phase 2 goes through, we are creating AGI token version on Cardano platform, which I'm informally calling AGI ADA at the moment, which will complement the AGI ERC20 tokens that are out there now. We're already working with this closely with the Cardano development, IOHK development team, which has built most of Cardano platform. And yeah, the idea here is you can swap an AGI ERC20 token one-to-one for AGI ADA token. So I mean, it's sort of like think of it as like a US dollar coin, a silver dollar versus a US dollar bill. I mean, they're different forms of the same thing, and you can swap them one-to-one. You can use them for some different things, like you can drop the coin in a vending machine. You can't always drop the dollar bill in the same vending machine, but you can swap them back and forth to each other. And that we're going to do. The reasons for that I'll discuss a little later. I mean, there's a strong technical reasons to do that, which I've discussed before in some podcasts and interviews with Charles Hoskinson, the CEO of IOHK and founder of Cardano. Then the final part of the proposal, which is the part that's attracted the most discussion, is as well as allowing you to swap back and forth between the AGI ERC20 tokens and the AGI ADA tokens, we want to allow issuing a billion new AGI ADA tokens, which will be released gradually month by month at an exponentially decreasing rate. So historically, SingularityNET was founded in mid-2017. Then in late 2017, we did the token generation event, which generated 1 billion AGI ERC20 tokens, and half of them were distributed and sold to the community around the time of that token generation event in late 2017. And the other half somewhat to the SingularityNET Foundation, some to advisors and the founders and staff. So what we're looking at now is another treasury event of the same total magnitude as the one we did in late 2017, but with a different nature. I mean, then a billion tokens were created all at once, whereas here we're looking at a billion tokens to be released month by month over a long period of time. So 15 million tokens in the first month of phase 2, which would be a few months from now. Then 98.5% of that, so decreased by 1.5% the second month, then 98.5% of that the third month, and so forth. So exponentially decreasing amount. And this is a slight modification of the version of this plan that we suggested a few days ago, which was based on some discussions with the community. So yeah, if we you can look here at a chart which is from the hold on, let me adjust my screen sharing here. I want to show a chart that may make this clear. Yeah, here's a chart from the SingularityNET Phase 2 document, which shows, so the 1 billion tokens that were created in the first place in 2017 were created as ERC20 tokens. So now those are shown here as either ERC20 tokens, or they could be AGI ADA that were swapped from ERC20 tokens. Then newly released AGI ADA tokens will be created on an exponentially decreasing pace month by month. And this chart goes up to 2045, which is when my friend Ray Kurzweil announced the Singularity will come. I think actually it's going to come significantly sooner than that. But in any case, so we're looking at releasing new tokens each month, and a little bit fewer fewer each month. Of course, if the conversion value from AGI into other things like Ethereum, Bitcoin, or US dollar increases over time, then the value of the released tokens each month, as measured in dollar or Ethereum, would be going up. But this is the number of AGI tokens created each month will go down each month. So you can see the curve here, and this is sort of it's explained in detail in the document. But basically, if you start at 15 million in month one and decrease by 1.5% each month, then overall time, the total released will be $1 billion. It's something like 91 years or something. You will get down to releasing one AGI token. So that's the tokenomic aspect of the proposal being presented, which is not the only aspect. I think the governance changes are probably equally important, but the tokenomic aspect has attracted the most discussion in the community so far, understandably. So, yeah, together with this proposal to create new tokens and release them on an exponentially decreasing schedule and the governance changes, I mean, we've also been introducing some new thinking about how to best grow the network and how to get the most traction on the network. And in that regard, we've been thinking about something we're calling SingularityNET Layer 2. Let me say something about that for just a moment, then I'll plunge back into all the detailed questions. So this is an article. Oh, screen sharing is not working, is it? Oh, hold on. All right, now
work.
Yeah, this is working now. Yes, this is an article not written by me or by SingularityNET, folks, but it's a very good and in-depth one that I've recommended a bunch on meta platforms and sort of network effects. And this indicates some of the way that we've started thinking about SingularityNET and the general problem of growing massive traction and utilization on SingularityNET, which is a key focus of everything we've been thinking about lately, which has driven us to this phase 2 proposal. So I think everyone understands what a platform is, right? I mean, Uber, Airbnb are platforms. Ethereum is a platform in as much as you have ERC20 and smart contracts, and you can build new things on the platform. So I mean, the classic platform is where you have buyers and sellers or producers and consumers, and the platform is being a marketplace where they can interact. And in SingularityNET context, you think of that in terms of developers of AI algorithms or products to put them on the platform, and then consumers of AI services who make API calls into the platform. Then the AGI token is the utility token that's used for payment there, right? So that's how we had initially been thinking about SingularityNET. And then, what is discussed in this article on meta platforms is, I mean, it's something I'd come to on my own together with my colleagues, but Sam Smith's article sort of went through it in an in-depth and interesting way. So a meta platform is a platform on which platforms get built and designed for the efficient operations of platforms on top of the meta platform. And you could say Ethereum has become a meta platform, although a very expensive and inefficient one at the moment, right? Because networks like SingularityNET and Ocean, and then all these different DeFi platforms. I mean, all these are platforms which are running on top of Ethereum as a meta platform. And then to the extent that the platforms running on the meta platform can interact and intersect with each other, I mean, then you have a quite interesting sort of network of networks dynamic. And I mean, certainly like a country or a government is a meta platform, and you can even argue the human body is that, with all the different sub networks that have their own autonomy within it, like the brain or the immune system or endocrine system, but are still interacting with each other within the whole meta platform of human body. I mean, just like, say, U.S. government is a meta platform, and you have things like healthcare system and university system and the VC ecosystem, which are all platforms running on top of that platform. And shifting to thinking that way about SingularityNet is part of what's led us to think about, building networks around top of SingularityNet network, like Rejuve of a network for longevity enthusiasts to share medical data, and researchers can get the data and analyze it using SingularityNet tools, or Singularity DAO as a DeFi platform, leveraging the AI in Singularity, or NuNet as a processing power platform. So I mean, if we view SingularityNet as a meta platform, that doesn't obviate thinking of it as a platform, but it means that we don't have to focus just on getting individual developers or on the product side or individual consumers to use a platform. We can think about it as how to foster the growth of whole networks that will live on SingularityNet as a platform. And then there are some interesting aspects that may live at the meta platform level, and that brings us back to the SingularityNet reputation system, because if you have multiple platforms on the same meta platform, some things can be shared among the platforms on the meta platform, which includes, say, the reputation and identity. So I mean, that this is very interesting. I would love to talk about it all day. I think I'll stop there and go back to answering the flow of questions coming in. But just to recap that before I do, so there's, in the phase 2 proposal we're discussing, there's governance and steps further toward democratic decentralized governments, which is sort of the next steps in the progressive decentralization path. There's tokenomics, which is creating AGI on ADA, and then the proposed issuance of a billion new AGI tokens in exponentially decreasing amounts each month, and then there's the launch of SingularityNET Layer 2, which is tools to support creation of autonomous networks running on top of the SingularityNet network. And I mean, these all tie together. I mean, the main use of the billion tokens will be to help build out SingularityNet as a meta platform, so that these things they tie together in a way that we've put a considerable amount of thought into. Someone's asking sort of the particulars of the use of the new tokens. Let me do a screen share again. Yeah, so this is again looking at the phase 2 document. So I mean, we're looking at so half the new tokens to go into the SingularityNet Foundation, and I mean, the foundation actually mostly hires subcontractors. So I mean, this is just basically paying developers to do development work according to coordinated plan and roadmap. And I will a bunch of people are asking about the roadmap, so I will talk about that a little later, because that's another in-depth thing. 30% to the deep funding program, and this is a quite interesting thing, which there's some other questions about. But one of the things I've been very interested in the Cardano platform is, I mean, this ties into another question, like why choose ADA instead of a EOS or Elrond or anybody else's favorite blockchain? And a lot of that is with the superior technical infrastructure of Cardano, which I've talked about in my podcast with Charles Hoskinson before, and can say a little bit more about today if there ends up being time. But I'm also quite impressed with Cardano's dedication to and practical step toward democratic governance. And the Catalyst program in Cardano was one example of that. I mean, it's been just getting off the ground. I've been following it closely. There's been plenty of glitches and learning experience. But I mean, the basic idea, a certain amount of tokens in the Catalyst case so far, a certain amount of ADA tokens are put out there, and community members can vote with their ADA tokens on which of a number of proposed projects will get the ADA tokens to incentivize their development. And the idea is down the road to use more and more sophisticated liquid democracy mechanisms there, so that every token holder doesn't have to vote on every proposal, but you can also delegate your vote. So you can say delegate, well, I will give my votes based on my ADA tokens to this guy who's an expert who can then vote on which proposals, and you can choose different delegates for different types of proposals. So I think that whole mechanism makes sense. They've made amazing progress there, and I want to even amp it up a little. I mean, the Catalyst program within Cardano is going to be ramping up a lot over this year to be disseminating more and more funding, and I think that we want to do something similar. So 30% of the new AGI tokens are going to be given to community projects, to people who propose to develop things using SingularityNET platform, and then we can then supply them with tokens. I mean, at least a quarter of the tokens given to each project have to be used to pay for API calls on the network, which is to encourage people to make agents on the network that call other agents on the network, so to incentivize cross-agent communication and collaboration. And I mean, we want to incentivize the community and to grow the community for developing things. I mean, we've tried some incentivization programs before, like we have a request for AI portal, and we've had the XLab accelerator. I mean, to be honest, those all made sense, but none of them really caused the massive uptake of community contribution that we wanted for a variety of reasons. I mean, one of them is we just weren't able to put that many tokens behind them, and I think the organization also wasn't optimal. So I think with Catalyst, Cardano has figured out a good way to organize this sort of community-based funding. They're already doing it, right? And they've got nice, secure, decentralized software for it. You can see the processes working. So that's great that they've solved that problem to a certain extent, and they're refining it ongoingly as Catalyst grows. So I think piggybacking on what they've done there with the Catalyst program, and then adding in our own tokens, which will be the AGI ADA tokens, 30% of them, I think this can wonderfully complement what the foundation will do. And there's been questions, why not just let everything be community development like that? And I thought about it, to be honest, but it seems like if we want to really get to the end goal of beneficial decentralized AGI in the most efficient way, I mean, you fundamentally need a mix. I mean, there's some bit of hardcore long-term development stuff that it's honestly best done by focused development teams, working month by month and year by year. And this has to do with, building out infrastructure as a service underlying SingularityNET, with integrating, say, OpenCog, Hyperon, and other advanced AI tools with SingularityNET. I mean, all these things are better done by a coherent coordinated experience development team, the same way that Google and Amazon and Microsoft and so forth build their foundational software. On the other hand, this is not a centralized company, and we absolutely do want to pull in contributions from all over the place in a decentralized way, and to encourage these diverse contributors to sort of interact and cross-pollinate with each other. And this is what the deep funding pool is for. So I think we want both, and we're going to have both. So next, going down here, 5% for liquidity pool to support fiat AGI gateway. And I think we need to finish building out the fiat to AGI gateway, which has been a pain due to regulatory issues more than anything else. It's been annoying to find a solution with reasonably low cost that will work in the US and all jurisdictions. But we're making a bunch of progress there. That should be rolled out before long. But I mean, if you're taking payments and paying service providers in different currencies like USD or Euro or whatever, but on the back end, the whole network is operating with AGI. You need a certain liquidity pool to allow that. I mean, the stake tokens provide some of that, but if we grow as big as we're aiming to, it's not entirely clear relying only on stake tokens will be good for that. But I mean, of course, if liquidity pool isn't needed, then those tokens are sitting there and don't become circulating, which is fine also. But we want to have those there so we don't at some point have to come back and ask to mint more tokens to serve it as a liquidity pool if it's needed as the marketplace grows. So loyalty reward wallet, I mean, in some form or another, we're aiming to, from the beginning, start airdropping 5% of these tokens to, the current AGI token holders. And what we're sort of in a legal and regulatory hellish exploratory phase with this now, because in many cases, the most straightforward way to do airdrops and be compliant is to do KYC, but not everyone in our community likes KYC. So what we're looking at the details of this now, but this is the intention. And I mean that there are many possibilities here. I mean, you can give some extra reward to those who've been staking or those who've been in since the very first token generation event. And I would love to have the exact details of that right now, but there's just messy compliance issues that we're going through on the right way to do this. And I mean, we've always in SingularityNET been sort of obsessive on being as compliant as possible, given the nature of what we're doing. That may have hurt us in some ways, but I think it's the best way for long-term growth. 3% to reputation wallet, and this is for curation and other rewards associated with the reputation system. And if you look at Singularity as a meta platform, very clear that reputation is something that could be in the core meta platform. So if you have a Rejuve or a NuNet, a Sophia DAO, or a dozen other networks that third-party developers have created that are running on top of the base SingularityNET platform, it makes sense to have a shared way of dealing with identity and reputation. And we did a bunch of simulations of reputation systems, 2018, 2019, 2020, which showed that the best way to get a reliable reputation system is to have ratings coincide with payments. I mean, putting a little skin in the game along with your rating tends to make the ratings a lot more accurate, right? And so, but you want to have some curation rewards, so that if people make accurate ratings, and then they get a reward. And if they've staked some tokens on someone else's reputation, they can get some rewards for that. I mean, this was part of the original vision. We haven't done it. We haven't rolled that out yet because there hasn't been enough traction on the network for it to really be meaningful. You need a bunch of statistics about ratings and interactions for a reputation system like that to work. But as traction massively increases, as phase 2 rolls out, I mean, we're then going to be going to be seeing a larger role for curation markets and reputation system, and this pool of tokens will support that. Sophia DAO is a particular layer 2 project which involves open source AI code running on SingularityNET platform used to power Sophia and other open, compassionate, benevolent humanoid robots. But Sophia is sort of the flagship. And again, during phase 1, during what we've done so far, something close to 10% of the tokens that the foundation have utilized have gone toward things related to the collaboration with Hanson Robotics. I mean, with getting AI on SingularityNET platform to power these sorts of compassionate humanoid robots. And it's going to pay off in a number of ways. I mean, there's the Awakening Health project, which is making to Sophia's little sister a robot called Grace, which is oriented elder care. And the Grace robot, all the AI in the back end runs on SingularityNET. So in late 2021 and into 2022, as Grace robots roll out in the mainstream, we get a lot of token utilization through that. But that's one application domain and one project. And Sophia DAO is aimed at sort of opening that up more and more. And Hanson Robotics will be open sourcing a lot of their robot control code and even hardware designs into Sophia DAO as a separate organization, and we will put some tokens into growing that. As Sophia DAO issues governance tokens, which is their current plan, then there would be some of that flowing to SingularityNET as well. And finally, the last batch to support the supervisory council. So this is not all for individually compensating supervisory council members. I mean, if the token price escalates considerably, which would be a natural consequence of escalating utilization considerably, which is our plan. I mean, then to use that just for compensation of the supervisory council would be insanely high compensation. But I mean, portion of that can be used to compensate the supervisory council, and this is intended for usage to create tools supporting better democratic governance and token holder relations. So say if we want to improve the Catalyst platform in a specific way for SingularityNET's deep funding, or that, then this could come from this bucket of tokens. Also, as another example, when dealing with the KuCoin hack last year, we realized it would be really nice to have a rapid response democratic governance framework where if some emergency happens and you want to get token holder feedback on that, you'd like to have a system to get token holder feedback on something within like 24 hours. So like if an emergency happened and I couldn't be reached, I could have delegated the ability to respond in an emergency to some other token holder who I trusted or something. So creating a rapid response democratic governance fallback mechanism. Interesting. We saw the need for that already when you wanted to respond to something rapidly, like decide to, do we pause certain aspects of token function very rapidly because of a hack or something? I mean, ultimately we decided not to, but in practice, like the foundation had to decide that because we had no way to pull the token holders quickly enough. So developing tools of that nature, as well as compensating the supervisory council, would come from that pool. So that's that's a long answer, but it was a question that was answered a bunch of times. Like how will the newly released tokens actually be utilized? So here's a related question: are there any fundamentals supporting the decision to release 15 million new tokens initially? Like why not 5 million or 100 million? Why not mint 1 trillion tokens, right? And I mean, of course, you can look at that from a number of perspectives. You can look at Google DeepMind has spent a couple $2 billion. OpenAI has $1 billion funding from Microsoft. So I mean, building building AGI using centralized tools is something that is absorbing billions of USD in funding for other entities. And building AGI using centralized tools is easier than building it using decentralized tools, right? Like what we're trying to build not only AGI, but we're trying to build a decentralized platform for AGI and have these connect together, and then do it using a distributed community, which on the one hand decreases the work we have to do because the community will do it. On the other hand, it means we have to build a whole bunch of tools for coordinating a distributed community. So I mean, one could certainly frame an argument why there should be billions of USD going into a project like this. I mean, on the other hand, you have to get to that point step by step. And if we build up utilization of the network sufficiently, I mean, then market cap will grow dramatically. And, a few years down the road, we could have billions of USD going into the whole community developing on this project. I mean, I think that is where we need to go. The choice of this amount, it's a sort of compromise of what the long-term vision would most desire and what seems to be practical and plausible in terms of where we are now. And so this ties in with questions that have been asked a number of times, sort of on what some people are phrasing is dilution of token value by increasing the token supply. So I mean, dilution is not the right way to look at it. I mean, this is not an equity, it's a utility token. But even if you sort of think by analogy to regular currencies that aren't utility tokens, still the impact of increasing token supply in an intelligent way on the exchange price of the token, I mean, it's not as simplistic as many people seem to be thinking it is, right? So I mean, the short answer is, of course, with the current approach, after 91 years of exponentially decreasing releasing of new token, after 91 years, if you have 100 AGI tokens now, that's a certain percent of the total supply now. After 91 years, that 100 AGI tokens will be half as much proportionally of the overall supply, right? So we are decreasing the percentage of the token supply that each fixed number of AGI tokens will constitute. But on the other hand, that doesn't really matter. Like in each of our personal bank accounts, we don't, in our practical life, like I don't care what percentage of the total amount of US dollars my bank account constitutes, right? I mean, that doesn't have an impact on my life in the direct way. What matters is what can I get with the US dollars in my bank account. And so I mean, in a similar way, I mean, the percentage of the total supply that your AGI tokens constitutes, it's worthwhile to know it's meaningful, but it's not the main thing. The main thing is how much AI services can you get for that amount of tokens, which of course ties in with what's the conversion rate to fiat, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so forth. Because I mean, the AGI token economy, it has some separateness and distinctness as a self-organizing system, but of course it's not distinct from the fiat economy, because if someone is running an AI service on the platform, they have to pay for computing cycles, right? I mean, they may have to hire a system administrator or developer to help build that thing. They have to pay for electricity. So I mean, the AGI token, it's intended to be used to buy AI services on the platform, but to run the AI services, you have to pay for stuff in fiat. So I mean, you need a healthy AGI to fiat exchange ratio for the AGI tokens you pay for services to be able to buy electricity and pay developers to build those services. So I mean, we need the exchange rate to be healthy, and that's important. But how much any given entity's tokens are percentage-wise of the whole token supply is not that's not the most proximally valuable thing, right? So I mean, in regular economics, you have something called the quantity theory of money, which has quite limited validity, right? So I mean, in the quantity theory of money, the inflation rate would sort of equal money supply growth minus money demand growth, and not, I mean, deflation rate will be money demand growth minus money supply growth, and that's one of the theories out there. It sort of works sometimes. If you look at like dollar, euro, yen, RMB since 1990, it works very poorly. Like the inflation or deflation rate did not, in fact, correlate with money supply growth. And you can see that in the aftermath of 2008 financial crisis, or right now with all these coronavirus stimuli in the US. I mean, you may think what you want about the US printing a lot of dollars. It's not always been a good thing, but it certainly has not affected inflation or deflation rate in a predictable way by quantity theory of money. If you look in cryptocurrencies, it doesn't really work that way either. I mean, you can look at AGI token from the original token generation event till now. I mean, circulating supply in terms of the amount of tokens that are actively out there to be bought and sold, and not like locked in Foundation wallet or locked somewhere. I mean, the circulating supply remained pretty flat from beginning of 2018 through late 2019, and then the circulating supply began to gradually increase from like late 2019 till now. So that curve was sort of flat, then up. On the other hand, the token price went up, way down, and then recently started going up again. I mean, you did not have correlation of circulating supply and token price, right? So quantity theory of money has held for AGI token or most other crypto tokens even worse than it has held for major world currencies since 1990, which is not very well. And then it's not to say there's no meaning to it. All else equal, it would hold, but in real life, all else isn't equal, right? So I mean, in crypto markets, sentiment means a lot, and of course, correlation means a lot. I mean, correlation of altcoins with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and all these factors throw off quantity theory of money. But if we do look at quantity theory of money, even given how limited it is, if we look at it in terms of the future of SingularityNET, I mean, deflation rate, money demand growth minus money supply growth. So we're looking at gradually moving toward a doubling of money supply for AGI token over the next 91 years, step by step. So on the other hand, if the demand for AGI token moves faster than that, so that the demand is more than doubling over 91 years, I mean, then you'll have deflation, not inflation, right? So then the AGI to fiat price will improve. So I mean, if you look at, say, 91 years is a long time, but look at say 5 years, and if you're multiplying the overall token supply by say 1.6 or something over a 5-year period, right? Then the question is, okay, over 5 years, you're multiplying token supply over 1.6, but is the demand for AGI tokens increasing by more than 1.6 over those years? And if the demand is increasing by more than 1.6 over the 5 years that you're increasing the supply by 1.6, then you'd expect to see deflation, and you expect to see each AGI worth more in fiat terms, right? And so that's what you get from basic quantity theory of money, which I think is inaccurate for many reasons, but still is one of the factors contributing to the value of a token. Now, why do I think the demand for the token would increase by more than a factor of 1.6 over 5 years, let's say? Well, I mean, right now, the demand for the token is quite small, right? I mean, we have some agents and apps running on SingularityNET platform. There's song splitter app, there's genomics software, there's image analysis software. So we have dozens of AI apps running on SingularityNET platform. Most of those are launched by SingularityNET Foundation as demonstrations. The price that they've been set at is very low, right? So I mean, right now, demand is quite small, which is not desirable. That's not where we want to be at this point, right? But it's the case. The demand is not that high right now, and the main thing we want to do during the next years is massively grow traction on the platform. So if you look in the SingularityNET phase 2 document, I mean, one of the things we go over there is for just the SingularityNET layer 2 networks that we're looking at now, that we're already collaborating with people to build, right? Like even setting aside the probably much more amazing things that community members are going to build. Just looking at these, if we look at how many platform calls into the SingularityNET platform these things are going to need over the next years as they operate. I mean, this is getting into, you know, millions, in some cases billions, in other cases of calls into AI agents on the platform. And of course, each of these API calls is AGI token transactions. So I mean, I think we're looking at a multiplication by billions of times, at least hundreds of millions of times, of the demand for AGI token from the platform. So if you look at, like, multiply by 1.6 the supply, and multiply by, say, 100 million or a billion the demand, I mean, if you really just looked at quantity theory of money, then you would expect to see, I mean, in millionfold increase in the exchange value of the token. No, I don't actually think that's going to happen either, because the quantity theory of money isn't exactly right. But I think you're going to see dramatic increase in exchange value would be the most likely consequence of dramatic increase in token utilization, which is the central goal that we are working toward here. So I mean, of course, there's insane amounts of uncertainty in all this, and as we proceed, I mean, our thought and our focus is AGI is a utility token. How do we get token utilization to be robust and as strong as possible, so that as much as possible of the world's AI services are using our token? But I mean, the logical consequence of that is not that, well, you're increasing token supply by 1.6 over 5 years, so token price will fall by a factor of 1.6 over 5 years. Like that makes no sense. Like, well, while we're not focusing on token price, it's just basic logic that if the demand goes way up because of massive network utilization and supply goes up slightly by 1.6, then, I mean, the basic logic of the quantities is that the token to fiat ratio should go up considerably. Now, there's loads of other factors like correlation with other tokens and market sentiment and so forth, but the basic logic is quite clear to me, and that is, it's, in as much as you can apply Econ 101 to utility token economies, which is quite complicated. I mean, that's why you're led. So looking again at the phase 2 document, I mean, we went through some work sort of to figure out the projected SingularityNET platform calls from various of these layer 2 networks that we're looking at. So I mean, Rejuve, which is aimed at life extension medicine, and members basically creating a network where members upload their biological data, which could be from smartphone peripherals or from their medical records or DNA sequence, and then they get reward tokens for contributing their data. And if someone uses that data to discover something cool, then they can get a portion of proceeds from that. So, I mean, if we look at token utilization of AGI token from the use of AI on the back end of Rejuve, I mean, you conclude that as we roll this out, we're getting many millions of platform calls. And NewNet, which is aimed at decentralizing processing power, again, if we're using this to run SingularityNET AI applications in a decentralized way. You're getting to many millions of platform calls. Accelerando, which is a project we haven't talked about much, but is a media platform. Sort of, it's going to be a website giving futurist news and opinion, which will be cool, and we'll use AGI token for rating and reputation, and for automatically curating document feeds and so forth. But we're also looking at this as a way to showcase various singular-based AI for media and social media tools, and just prototype them and roll them out there. Because if you look at the podcast Charles Hoskinson and I just did, I mean, we're talking about decentralized AI, Singular on Cardano for social media, right? So I mean, Singularity on Cardano for social media, basically that means we need to make a whole bunch of different decentralized AI tools that can do everything the AI tools underlying Facebook, Google, Twitter, TikTok, and so forth do, but do it in a decentralized, democratic way, respecting data sovereignty. So if you want to be able to do all that, you need a lot of decentralized AI tools, and the same tools can be used among different decentralized media platforms. So Accelerando, as well as a cool website, will be a showcase for a bunch of these technologies on the back end as it grows, and make more and more API calls. I mean, Singularity DAO, same way. I've talked about this recently. I mean, DeFi, AI for DeFi, for low liquidity altcoins on SingularityNET platform. I mean, the AI tools that are doing prediction and portfolio rebalancing and hedging and so forth. Again, millions and millions of API calls. I mean, for robotics applications like Sophia DAO and Awakening Health, you're looking at billions of API calls. Now, API calls is sort of a weird measure, because say for Rejuve, a lot of the API calls may be something that takes an AI agent hours to do, right? Because it's doing bioinformatics, it's doing complex like batch analysis of genomic data. Sophia DAO or Awakening Health or Singularity Studio, which is building intelligent virtual agents and other Singularity-based tools for enterprise. I mean, these things are making a lot of smaller API calls. Like if a robot needs to recognize who someone is, that's like one call to a face recognition agent, right? So then, I mean that's going to be less expensive. So I mean, these are all these graphs are number of API calls. They're not number of tokens. They're not USD equivalent or something, and that will vary. So like each API call for Awakening is going to be much less expensive than the average API call for Rejuve, where there's a lot of hardcore bioinformatics involved. But I mean, this obviously devolves into a great number of highly detailed analyses. But I mean, the bottom line is, if we come remotely close to succeeding with what we're planning here, I mean, a 1.6 times increase in token supply over a number of 5 years is, I mean, that will be massively dwarfed by many orders of magnitude increase in token utilization, right? So I mean that's a path to rapid growth of the network and the value of the network. And I generally avoid focusing on exchange value of AGI token, because it's just not the point. Like, I mean, what we're after is creating massive utility of the network and creating massive demand for AI services on the network with a lot of users and a lot of providers. I mean, we're really after massive utilization. But I mean, the fact that we're not offering AGI like as a investment, and we're offering it as a utility token. We're not focusing on token price as our goal. Our goal is growing network utilization. I mean, that shouldn't delude people that there's not some basic economics here, right? I mean, if you increase demand way faster than supply, this does have obvious implications for the exchange rate, which is important for our business, because AGI service providers need to buy processing power and so forth. So I mean, there's a basic logical thinking here that everyone should be able to do. So proceeding through more questions. what financial risk management strategies have been or will be put in place to ensure no further dilution of coins will ever take place in future? I mean, there's no guarantees in life. There's certainly no guarantees in the cryptocurrency world. I mean, this is phase 2 is being designed in a very thoughtful and intentional way, based on a lot more understanding of decentralized AI than it was possible to have in 2017, when we were the first people to really do decentralized AI in any meaningful way. So I mean, we're releasing month by month an exponentially decreasing amount of the token. Now, if the exchange value of the token increases month by month at an equal or greater rate, I mean, then we'll see the amount of tokens released each month will have a constant or increasing exchange value, right? So I mean, the logic of the token release at a slowly exponentially decreasing amount means that if things succeed and we get more and more demand at an exponentially increasing rate, I mean, then the economics of the whole network is assured. And I mean, of course, you know, if you ask Jeff Bezos to predict Amazon 10 years in advance at any point, he couldn't do it. So we can't guarantee what the token holder community might want to do 5 or 10 years from now. But I mean, we are building in a logic for sustainability here in a pretty clearly rational way. Next question. Why do you need Cardano? Why are you unable to do this on Ethereum platform with ERC20? I mean, if nothing but Ethereum existed, we could make it work using Ethereum by using layer 2 networks and side chains, and maybe eventually Ethereum 2 will do what we need. Right now, I mean, Ethereum cost and speed really suck. Like I don't trade that much, but like last week, I paid like 100 USD in gas for a single Uniswap transaction, right? I mean, this is bad, right? This is very stupid, and everyone knows it, and they're working on it. And you've got Conflux and Matic and a whole bunch of other cool layer 2 networks out there that we've been looking at in the Singularity DAO context, but there's actually a whole bunch of other blockchains out there, not just Cardano, that are faster and cheaper than Ethereum, and that would be faster and cheaper based on their design, even if they had a lot of usage. I think the core value Cardano offers isn't lower cost and higher speed, although those are very good, right? And we want those. I mean, I think Elrond has that. A bunch of blockchains have that, right? But the main thing that attracted me to Cardano was I've been a Haskell programmer since 1993, before almost anyone heard of Haskell. And you know, in our refactoring of our OpenCog AGI system, OpenCog Hyperon, we're designing our own programming language, which is Adamese 2, which is a descendant of Haskell, using sort of gradual probabilistic dependent types, even more sophisticated than Haskell's type system. So when I saw Cardano has Plutus, like a smart contract language, which uses Haskell, like function language with higher order types and lazy evaluation, it's like very, very, very cool. And I could immediately see like what's the payoff there. Like you can formally verify that your code is secure. I mean, if you want to have code on a side chain or a layer 2 network, it can be isomorphically mapped into code running on the main network. The abilities for code reuse are just much greater. Like if you want to build machine learning and machine reasoning agents that do multi-party computing or homomorphic encryption, you can leverage the encryption code in the base platform because the functional programming software is nicely written and lets you do that, right? So I mean, if we're doing an AI description language, AI DSL, that lets AIs in SingularityNET platform automatically describe what they're doing to each other, so that AIs on the platform can automatically assemble into sort of multi-agent networks constituting meta AIs. So I mean, doing that on the back of Plutus is just going to let us interoperate the AI agents with the infrastructure a whole lot better in a lot of deep technical ways. So it's sort of like asking why do you want to use like C++ instead of BASIC to implement some software. Like you can implement any software you want using the BASIC programming language. Like it is Turing complete, right? It can do anything, but you're gonna have a lot easier time making things fast and scalable and elegant using C++. So I mean, we could do it using Ethereum, but like fortunately for all of us, we don't have to, right? And I mean, we can use the Ethereum network when we need to. I mean, Singularity DAO, we're going to be using Ethereum considerably because that's concerned with, bundling up altcoins into baskets that are then traded using AIs. And right now, most of the altcoins you want to bundle into those baskets are ERC20 tokens running on Ethereum. So I mean, we'll deal with Ethereum there. We'll deal with layer 2 networks. It's fine. It is what it is. When there's enough Cardano native assets, we'll bundle those in Dynaset bundles within the Singularity DAO also. But if we're in a context where we don't have to center things on Ethereum, why not use something with like a many orders of magnitude more advanced software design that will make it much faster and cheaper, but also let us do much more sophisticated things with less developer time, right? So that's what it is. Right? I mean, I'm great respect for everyone who has developed Ethereum, because just getting smart contracts out there for the first time ever, that created whole new industries and whole new ways of thinking, right? Like I'd thought about smart contracts in 2001. But I didn't deploy them. Like Vitalik and crew deployed them. That's incredible. But I mean, the BASIC and Fortran languages were incredible for their time. Also, the fact that something was a landmark achievement doesn't make it the best tool. And Cardano is the best blockchain tool by far all around that we found at present time. Another question about Hanson Robotics. Singularity is involved with Hanson Robotics to varying degrees, involving various robots like Sophia, Grace, and Little Sophia. But it's dismaying to see recent news stories about Sophia without mentioning SingularityNET. There also seem grand opportunities to bring Cardano into the potential for benefit of Hanson Robotics and SingularityNET. Is Sophia going to be in a centralized server? Who's doing software development for Sophia? So, yeah, this is a bit complex. I mean, we were working quite closely with Hanson Robotics in 2017, 2018. The collaboration never went away. I mean, we did a bunch of cool stuff with Philip K. Dick Robot last year, for example, but I'd say we were doing less on that in 2019 and early 2020, and we jumped back into collaborating with Hanson Robotics more full force in August and September of last year when we started Awakening Health project. And now, because that's going really well in terms of the prototype work we're doing now with the SingularityNET and OpenCog AI on the Grace robot being built by Awakening, we've been looking at expanding that, and that's what the Sophia DAO collaboration is about, is taking AI, which is a combination of OpenCog, symbolic AI, and deep neural networks deployed on SingularityNET platform, and getting that behind an open source code base for providing the intelligence to Sophia and other humanoid robots. Now, Hanson Robotics has their own software called Hanson AI, which is very, very cool in many ways. And I mean, so they've been using Hanson AI to operate Sophia primarily for the last few years. We used OpenCog, which is separate from Hanson AI on Sophia before. Like we used it in what was called the Loving AI experiments to have Sophia be a meditation assistant. We did it in some debates between Sophia and the Han and Einstein robot that I ran. But that's the Hanson AI system which is separate from either OpenCog or SingularityNet, has been the main control system behind Sophia. And that's the case now. Grace robot will run on OpenCog and neural nets on SingularityNet, using some bits and pieces from Hanson AI as well. And the Sophia DAO initiative, is aimed at using OpenCog and neural nets on SingularityNet to power Sophia. And how the Sophia DAO software gets interoperated with Hanson AI is sort of a work in progress, but a lot of the Hanson AI software is going to be open sourced and put into Sophia DAO. So there'll be an integration there. So, I mean, Hanson Robotics has some things that aren't connected to SingularityNet, like the little Sophia robot. We had some early talk about using SingularityNet AI behind it, but we didn't do it, and that's separate software now. I mean, we prototyped some guys in SingularityNet's Ethiopia team actually made OpenCog run on Raspberry Pi 3, so they got OpenCog AI running on some of the Professor Einstein robots, and we later used that code in our Cisco collaboration, actually, to have a scaled down OpenCog called TinyCog run some Atom processors on Cisco switches. So there's been some work at getting the needed AI to run on embedded processors like you'd have in toy robots. And we now, which we couldn't a few years ago, we can do SingularityNet nodes on Android, right? So I mean, we have a lot of the tools needed now to go into toy robots, which we didn't before. So that might happen, but for now, it's the human scale robots are the focus. So I'm very excited about both Awakening Health and Sophia DAO, and I think, like I said, about 10% of our resources historically have gone into SingularityNet and related AI tools for humanoid social robots, and we're going to be rolling that out gradually over this year finally. So I think we're going to be doing a lot more cool stuff with Hanson Robotics, but I mean, they are their own company, and they've got other cool stuff to do too, right? So a few questions about Cardano. These will be quicker answers, and I'll leave it to my pal Charles Hoskinson to go over these things in more detail. He's the master of marathon the AMAs, right? So, is it known when Cardano will have smart contract functionality? It's going to roll out. It's on testnet now. Like I've used the smart contract functionality. You can play with Plutus. It's going to be rolled out on the mainnet during the first half of this year. So some bits, I think, are around the end of March. But I mean, very cool on the testnet and coming soon. Next question: is it possible to just move all AGI token holders to ADA and kill all the old AGI tokens on Ethereum? I mean, it's possible. That's not our plan at this moment. I mean, I think my guess, and it's not a guarantee nor necessary, my guess is most AGI tokens will be on ADA by the end of this year. I mean, we're going to have sweeter staking rewards for AGI ADA tokens, and the AI marketplace for actual token utilization, which is the main thing. I mean, the AI marketplace is going to be running on Cardano platform with more features than we have with the AI marketplace version on the Ethereum platform. So, I mean, I'm looking at AGI ADA as being the main thing. I also think multi-chain is good, though. I mean, I think even if Cardano is the best, which it seems like it is, and will continue to get better and better, I mean, then, there are other platforms out there, each of which may have some interesting things to offer, right? Like I've been looking closely at the NEM platform, and we actually did a while ago sort of prototype port of AGI tokens onto NEM. We didn't roll that out fully and publicly yet, but I mean, NEM has been around since 2015, and there's a bunch of cool supply chain and fintech applications on them. It's lower cost than Ethereum in many ways, and has advantages in terms of going back and forth between public and private networks. So, I mean, if there's something that works really well on them and there's commercial traction there, why not have some AGI token on there that can then interoperate with the AGI on Cardano? And similarly on Ethereum, I mean, Singularity DAO is going to be on Ethereum for practical reasons. So why not have some AGI token on there also? I mean, so just because Cardano is better and the bulk of stuff may well end up happening there, doesn't mean other blockchains won't be doing some things best at some point in time. And I mean, if you look at Cardano's development roadmap, there's a whole bunch of focus on interoperability for similar reasons. So I mean, that doesn't actually have to be one blockchain to rule them all. Like even if there is one blockchain that has a significant plurality and is on the whole better than the rest, others can have their own value and their own functions. How will I swap my tokens? We don't have the app, the dApp for swapping tokens yet, but I mean, before any AGI ADA are released, whether via swapping or via minting, we will announce about the mechanics and the dApp for swapping. So that's that's under SingularityNET platform team and IOHK platform team are actively collaborating, actually. So I mean, there's development there going on now. Some questions on the Supervisory Council. Who's on Supervisory Council? Did they recommend that a fork be voted on last year? So membership of the Supervisory Council is highly public knowledge since they were voted by the token holders. It's David Orban, Penny Wong, and Matthew Newman. And when the KuCoin hack happened, I was in close communication with the team, with the Supervisory Council, and they were involved in our thought process where we were considering doing a vote on it, and then we ultimately decided that it wouldn't be pointful, because I mean the overall community sentiment seemed to be against a hard fork. And while we were debating whether to vote and what the vote should be, the hackers started moving the tokens onto Uniswap, right? So that the one thing that experience taught me, though, is like, I think we did the right thing there anyway. Like you can't do a hard fork every time someone loses their tokens or gets them stolen. I mean, that's gonna happen, and KuCoin, it's their responsibility to ensure their token holders. So I think we did the right thing. Although, I mean, in future situations, what I would like to have is a way to put a vote to the community very, very rapidly, right? And that situation made clear we didn't have that. Like there should be a way, if something sensitive and emergency and where it's not clear what's the right choice pops up, there should be a way to do like a lightning poll within 24 hours. And we didn't have that set up. That should be liquid democracy based. Like I would like to be able to say, like, if I can't respond, if there's some emergency thing, I don't respond within 12 hours, then just like, I don't know, let Ebi Ben Ali make my response. Let someone else make my response for me. You want to delegate your response to someone else so you can get a rapid response that will be in the spirit of what you would say. So we need to develop those tools, and Supervisory Council should be involved in helping to sort of design and set the requirements for those tools along with the rest of the community. Question: can we get a breakdown of exactly what the Supervisory Council will be doing to justify being compensated? I mean, there's review and help with the final production of financial reports. I mean, I want to do a financial report every year to the token holders, not wait 3 years like we did this time. Review the deep funding allocations to the community for funding just to be sure that everything's working effectively and being done fairly. Review executive level hires, like if we were to hire a CFO or say we were to hire a COO, so I can focus more on technical work along with evangelism and strategy. I mean, we can't have every token holder interview these candidates. We could have a supervisory council interview these candidates and weigh in on behalf of the token holders, discussing issues with the token holders. I mean, I try to do that myself, but I'm one guy, and it's good to have others involved. So we're looking more at we're the sort of role that very active board members would play in a startup company, right? And board members of regular companies tend to be compensated in the early stage by significant equity or options grants. For later stage companies, they get cash plus some shares, right? So I mean, compensating board members in one way or another shouldn't be very controversial, and I mean, compensating the supervisory council shouldn't be controversial. I mean, I think lack of compensation is probably not the main reason the supervisory council hasn't been as impactful as envisioned. I mean, I think a lot of that falls on me and the rest of the foundation leadership. Like, I mean, we didn't lay out very clearly what their responsibilities were, and just think things get crazy, and we didn't pull them into the loop as much as we should have. But I mean, going forward, there's an intention to pull them in much more tightly, and of course, compensation, feeds into that. I mean, that both gives much more clear sense of responsibility on council members' parts, and of course, if you're paying for something, you want to be more sure you're getting your money's worth, right? I mean, I think compensating the council synergizes well with making more use of them going forward. I mean, the precise compensation is sort of TBD, to be determined by the governing board going forward. It will come out of the 1.5% of the issued tokens, but certainly won't consume all of that, right? So I mean, we'll use some of that for other governance based stuff, or leave some of it sitting in that wallet. So another question about Cardano. Can I leave my AGI on Ethereum, or do I need to take an action? Don't have to take any action. At this moment. Best way to get updates is to subscribe to our newsletter. I mean, the phase 2 changes will involve a hard fork of the Ethereum token also. So I mean, independent of the idea to mint a bunch of new tokens and use them to incentivize growth, just to enable swapping back and forth between versions of AGI token on different blockchains. That's not allowed by the current AGI token smart contract. So there has to be a hard fork to make it multi-chain, regardless of whether the token supply is increased. So, I mean, if we do a hard fork, then that means if you want to trade your tokens later in time, you're going to want to exchange your current Ethereum token for a post-hard fork Ethereum token, and we will explain how to do that. So I mean, subscribe to the newsletter at SingularityNET.io. You'll see updates there. I mean, important stuff is also on the blog. There's a question about an AI-powered Cardano node setup dApp, or ways to use SingularityNET to make Cardano stake pools easier. A lot of things are possible. We will collect community ideas on this. I guess if I go into that in detail, I will never get through all the questions here. A question that came through dynamically about traction, like how do you how do you add more users to the network? What will be the marketing points that would make SingularityNet better than DeepMind or OpenAI? Well, I mean, DeepMind and OpenAI are like AI R&D divisions of big companies, right? Of Google and and Microsoft. So that's not quite the right comparable. I mean, you can compare our AGI R&D to DeepMind and OpenAI, and then we could have a discussion about OpenCog Hyperon and our path toward general intelligence with OpenCog, and why sort of neural symbolic multi-paradigm AI is a better path to AGI than the more deep neural network centered approaches being taken in OpenAI and in DeepMind. But that's the most interesting thing to me. That's more like AGI R&D focus, but that is not probably the intent of the question. I mean, the real question is what will make SingularityNet a viable option for people who want to sell or to buy AI services, as opposed to using, say, Amazon or Google Cloud or Azure, like AI marketplaces, or as opposed to just someone putting AI services out in the web and someone accessing via API calls to various websites, right? And I mean, there's two types of answers there, right? I mean, one is if someone has a business model or a technology model that just needs to be decentralized for what it is, I mean, then we're by far the best and almost only great platform for that, right? I mean, there's other things out there that are nice in their own ways, like Fetch, but I mean, we have a lot more, right? So I mean, so that goes back to the layer 2 idea, like something like a Rejuve network, which is a decentralized network to bring together medical data contributors with biomedical AI, or say a NewNet, which is decentralized network for processing power, or even say a Sophia DAO, which is intended to provide intelligence to a whole bunch of robots running all over the place, where the robots themselves are a decentralized network, right? So if you have an AI application which needs to be decentralized intrinsically for what it is, because it is a decentralized network, Singularity DAO, another example, but anyone else using AI for DeFi would be an example. And there's going to be a lot more AI in DeFi over coming years, just as AI has gradually pervaded traditional finance, right? So anyone who wants to use AI in DeFi, there's intrinsic advantages to using a decentralized AI network in your decentralized finance platform. So that's going to be a big advantage. On the other hand, for people whose AI is not in itself decentralized, then they're just looking at our decentralized platform as a way to sell their AI, or as a place to buy AI. I mean, for there, the superiority comes along with traction, right? Because as we get more AIs on the network, and as the AIs on the network start to outsource work to each other and talk to each other, then putting an AI on that network becomes advantageous, because the AI can get services from the other AIs on the network. And we don't have a lot of that now, to be honest. I mean, we have some cool AIs on the network, but with a couple exceptions, the AIs on the network are mostly doing their own thing. There's only a couple cases now where an AI on the network is like outsourcing work to another AI on the network. So with the deep funding pool, as we fund community projects, we're requiring 25% of the tokens a project gets have to be used for AI API calls on the network, and we're looking to sort of kickstart the cross-referencing of AI algorithms, and that I think will become a driving force behind traction as we get more critical mass, right? So I'd say in the early stages, meaning the rest of this year, I mean, we're still, of course, promoting the network for individual AI developers to put products and algorithms on there, and encouraging people to buy those. But I think a major factor will be launching these initial layer 2 networks and incentivizing development explicitly through the deep funding pool. as well as through Cardano's Catalyst funding, because Catalyst is about building dApps on Cardano. And once AGI token is on Cardano, then there can be dApps on Cardano that use AGI tokens. So as well as deep funding, there's Catalyst, then there's a layer 2 networks, and including things like Awakening and Singularity DAO. So I think we're looking at these explicit incentive programs and the layer 2 networks to get us over the next hump in terms of getting from pretty modest utilization to decent size utilization. Then once you're up to decent size utilization, then there's enough agents on the network that the cross-referencing of agents and having other agents there for your AI agent to talk to, this becomes an advantage for your AI agent that's running on the network. Then you can make a much more compelling appeal to indie AI and application developers. And I mean, that's where you can really see massive exponential growth and utilization take off. There we're realistically looking into 2022, right? So I mean, 2021, most of the growth from layer 2 networks, applications like Singularity DAO, Awakening, Rejuve, Accelerando, so forth, and funding from Catalyst and deep funding. As 2022 progresses, we should have enough stuff going on there, which is exciting enough and lucrative enough that network effects can take off and the thing can really start growing sort of its own momentum, with, of course, these first layer 2 networks and the catalysts and deep funding pools that they're still there to keep growing things, right? So I think a lot of stages and a lot of work, but what we're looking at with phase 2 is putting in the right structures to and the right tokenomic fuel to allow this work to get done really effectively. Because you have to remember, like, setting aside the billions going into R&D projects like DeepMind and OpenAI, I mean, these are trillion-dollar companies who are our main competitors in the AI space, right? So if we're going to take on these trillion-dollar companies as an upstart, I mean, we need to seed massive network effects, so as Linux has, for example, so we can pull in incredible resources from all over the globe. And so it's really, there's a lot of work the foundation needs to do, but the vast majority of work has to be done by a broader community. So I mean, it's mostly about kindling the broader community's efforts. A few specific questions about the vote. The SingularityNET Foundation gets to vote. The foundation gets to vote. I get to vote. I mean, the original white paper was pretty clear. Voting is by tokens. I mean, being a founder doesn't exclude you from having a say into the direction of the project. I think a foundation has a small minority of tokens out there now. I mean, I think vicinity of like 50 million tokens or something. So it's not like the foundation has vast majority of tokens and can just buy the whole vote. I mean, I know many blockchain project votes have been like that. I mean, with this particular vote, given the size of the circulating supply and the amount that's been released to the community, I mean, it's actually a vote where the community has some say. I mean, of course, I and other early founders have more votes than the average token holder, but I mean, it's not like the foundation and team members have a majority of tokens or something. I mean, we're genuinely putting this out to the community to vote on, and I mean, I strongly believe this is the best path forward. Like I strongly believe that the release of these new tokens at a gradually decreasing rate is going to multiply the utilization of the network by vastly more than a factor of 2, and thusly will multiply the value of the network and token by vastly more than a factor of 2, so that a twofold increase in the supply, while in itself not desirable, is a small price to pay for the massive value increase that will come from it. And I'm thinking that most token holders, after they think it through, are going to understand that, even though the initial proposal may have taken some people aback. So what happens if the community votes no? I mean, we're not stopping. The mission is my life's mission, and the software we built is good. The team and community we have is good, and we have decent amount of revenue from projects that we're doing now that are funded by external parties. The thing is, if the vote is no, there's going to be a major shift toward working on projects that are funded by external sources, which is basically building AI projects that utilize SingularityNET platform, along with having some non-SingularityNET aspects and running on internal servers of customers and stuff. So I mean, the team which is now working on SingularityNET will more so be working on application projects that use SingularityNET and building out SingularityNET platform as we go. And I mean, it's not a non-functional or stupid or bad way to do things. It's simply a much slower way to do things. And I mean, what worries me is like Amazon and Microsoft and Google are not slowing down. Like they're massively capitalized. They're going ahead as fast as they can, right? So then to proceed in a way that we know is much slower than the way we could and should be proceeding is not inspiring, and doesn't maximize our odds of success at achieving our long-term mission of beneficial decentralized AGI. I mean, for people who are concerned with the token price, which again is not our focus. Our focus is on token utilization. What people are concerned about the token price, I don't think it's actually rational to think that keeping the supply the same would maximize token price if it also has the consequence of leading to dramatically slower development, because it's faster development that will lead to utilization and traction, which has obvious implications for token price. But I mean, to me that seemed like something that shouldn't even have to be said, but it seems that for some community members, these things really need to be laid out, which is understandable. I mean, I'm thinking about this stuff and how to grow traction on the platform so we get to a beneficial AGI, all day, every day, and even in my sleep. Whereas, of course, other people in the community have other things going on. So reminder of the basics can probably be helpful. Question: is there any way we can vote for 1 or 2 years on this and see how it goes? Well, I mean, in effect, this could be reversed. Phase 2 could be reversed at any point in time. I mean, of course, reversing a hard fork is not likely to happen, but I mean, in terms of the governance changes or the tokenomic aspects, these could be reversed. I mean, I remember the government of Algeria, once there was a democratic vote to roll back democracy to go back toward religious dictatorship, right? So, I mean, the community could vote to disenfranchise itself and make the foundation more dictatorial. The community could also vote to stop releasing any new AGI ADA tokens and burn the tokens that are left at any point in time. I mean, 51% vote. The community could do that. Supervisory council can call a vote. The community can ask to elect a new supervisory council by submitting a petition with 25% of token holders. So I mean, if you look in detail at the newly proposed governance mechanisms, you'll see the community could halt release of new tokens and could change governance mechanisms. They could do a lot of things at any point in time. I think setting out a sort of default path with a well understood growth curve for this supply. I think having that default path laid out is good for the community. I think it's good for developers who want to come on board the platform to have a sense they know what's probably coming. I think it's good for people looking at buying the token to use at various times in the future, to have a sort of sense of what the future tokenomics is going to be. I mean, that gives at least a little bit of stability in the vast like sea of chaos, which is the crypto world. I mean, granted, there's a hell of a lot of uncertainty as well, but I mean, the less uncertainty there is, the easier it is to hire top-notch executives, to recruit new ecosystem partners, to compel developers to build on the platform, and so forth. And I think the mathematically predictable plan that we've suggested now can give some confidence there. Question: assuming the voted option is yes, will the foundation sell tokens in the market to get funds, or will you speculate with the funds? I mean, first thing I want to say is since we're doing a large new treasury action, it will be an opportune time to bring on a new CFO for the project. I mean, we have a great controller now and some great financial advisors, including some who have been CFO in the past. But we don't have a full-time CFO. I think it will be an appropriate time to bring a CFO on board who would then coordinate these sorts of decisions. I mean, we need someone with experience in both crypto and traditional finance. I mean, that plan is not for the foundation to immediately liquidate every token it gets to cover expenses. I mean, there will be some liquidation either liquidation to cover expenses or use of tokens to pay contractors and developers, which is what we've done a lot of historically. And I mean, in terms of the market dynamics, those come out to about the same thing. I think in terms of treasury management, I mean, keeping a diversified portfolio of what isn't cashed out is the job of the CFO. It's not my great personal strength, nor is it what I want to spend my own personal time thinking about. But I mean, certainly one wants to be able to weather future crypto winters as well as to flourish in the case of massive crypto explosions. It's obvious what the issues are there. Obvious that SingularityNET didn't do treasury management optimally in its history. I mean, I would say certainly I've been there since the beginning, so I bear partial responsibility for that. I'd also say that the folks centrally involved with treasury management in the early days of SingularityNET have not been actively involved like for quite some time in the project, right? So I mean, it's there's been shifts internally, and there's going to be new blood brought in to help with the treasury management stuff going forward, assuming that phase two goes through. Question: do you have a simulation of the potential adoption of the network and impact on the token? Simulating the tokenomics is quite hard. We do have a stochastic process model we've used to simulate these things, but it makes a lot of assumptions, and it's quite difficult to get accurate simulations. We're actually looking at simulation of altcoin markets and tokenomic networks now in collaboration of SingularityNET, Singularity Studio, Singularity DAO, and Autonio, who's a partner network. So we're looking at simulating altcoin networks and altcoin trading from a Singularity DAO perspective. And I think some of that simulation work can probably be helpful internally for SingularityNET, but I mean, there's a lot of irreducible uncertainty in this business, right? So I mean, none of us knows what the crypto world as a whole or the AI world as a whole is going to be in 5 years from now. So I mean, there's the unknown unknowns that we cannot get rid of, and that's it's going to rely on not just myself and the management and the supervisory council, but the whole token holding community thinking on their feet, and us really making use of governance and community. Question: if issuing new tokens is needed to work with new blockchains, will this be an ongoing issue? If you start working with XYZ chain, we need 1 billion XYZ tokens. No, we can always swap, right? I mean, so even if phase 2 doesn't go through, which I think is unlikely, but if phase 2 doesn't go through, we're still making AGI ADA, you can still swap. I mean, so it's sort of, there's a coincidence in time between wanting to do this treasury action and wanting to do the swap to AGI ADA, but they're not intrinsically connected. There's some synergy there, but there's not an intrinsic connection between the two things. Question: is there a rough ETA for the AI DSL? I mean, we're developing it this year. There's still some uncertainty in some aspects of Plutus timeline also. So not sure when that will be there for use on the marketplace. I mean, it's not Q1 or Q2 of this year. I'm hoping it's not too long after that. It will be. We will release AI DSL piece by piece because the whole glory of it is gonna take a few years, certainly, because that's tied in with a lot of advanced topics. But I mean, even have AI is able to just deal with sort of matching up input output types and functions and matching up payments and types of smart contracts like subscription or one-off. I mean, even these fairly simple AIDSL functionalities are going to be valuable. And then getting into dealing with, distributed processing and multi-party computing and stuff will be rolled out to ongoingly. Question: there's one important thing I'm missing. Who can buy the tokens? Will there be institutions, or can everyone get a fair share? So that's not wired into the plan because it needs to be adapted over time. I mean, it's not like an ICO. I mean, there's deep funding, which is 30% of tokens going to community projects. The tokens that go into, say, staking reward pool is obvious, and liquidity pool for the fiat crypto interface is obvious. Foundations tokens, I mean, if the foundation pays people with tokens for doing work, those people will liquidate the tokens how they want to, right? If the foundation were to liquidate some tokens directly, I mean, then I like DEXs. I would love to support DEXs. I mean, centralized exchanges are there, and I'm grateful for the value they've offered the ecosystem, right? So I mean, certainly, whether directly by the foundation or indirectly by folks the foundation pays in tokens, I mean, there's going to be tokens that are offered for sale to the general public in some measure out of all this. Certainly. So another question: can a specific plan be laid out for tokens to receive X% of tokens from spin-off projects like Rejuve and Nuna and so forth? Yeah, so we're committing to that for any spin-off project that is incubated by SingularityNET Foundation and that has an appropriate token, which is going to be liquid, then at least 5% of that liquid token will be in some form or another distributed to AGI token holders. So I mean, airdrop is a vague term, but it's pretty much what we're talking about. there's annoying compliance issues with airdrops in different jurisdictions that we're looking at. But I mean, that's basic idea. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And the percentage will vary for different projects and token types. We're looking at 5% as the floor. Next question. Assuming this treasury action and new token issuance is needed for funding growth, why progressive release? Why not release them all from the beginning? Isn't it better to speed up from the beginning? Well, couple points there. I mean, first, while the quantity theory of money is only one part of the story, I mean, indeed, if we immediately released 1 billion or 1 trillion new tokens, I mean, this would wreak havoc upon the people who are now trading the token, which would be annoying for people who we were compensating with incentive tokens for development and so forth. I mean, so that's gradual release, I think, can be done without causing chaotic disruptions in the market. And again, as long as token demand growth outpaces token supply growth, there's no reason that would have a downward impact on token price, which is important for people that we're incentivizing with tokens for their development. I mean, in terms of just paying for work, there's also the mythical man month phenomenon, right? Like you can't really get 12 times as much done in 1 month than a year. Like if you have $1 million for development, you won't do best to pay 12 times as many people to work in 1 month as to pay 1/12 as many people to work over a year, right? So I mean, there's a limit to how much the work parallelizes, and I think this is a decent size at the current time for the amount of work that we can meaningfully coordinate. I mean, could we use 3 times as many tokens to incentivize development this year? Probably. Could we use 100 times as many? A lot of it would be wasted, right? So I mean, there's a number of considerations there, but putting together like not making the whole tokenomic ecosystem crazy and having enough that we're going fast rather than sluggishly. I think that this was sort of a balance of those criteria. So, question: would you consider buying back the newly minted tokens? I mean, buyback is always possible, just like in a totally different part of the world. I mean, companies buy back their stock sometimes as utility, not as security. But I mean, some of the same logic could be there. I don't think it's not what we need to do at this moment, and what the right decision will be. And years from now, I would leave to the CFO of the foundation and the community, and years from now, like a lot of things are possible. But I mean, if we have a transaction fee on the network, it will be possible to burn some portion of the tokens that were received as part of the transaction fee. But if you do the math, if the market cap has gone up a lot, a percent of the transaction fee being burned would end up being a minuscule percent of the total tokens, just due to the relation between the transaction fee and the market cap. So it's not clear what would be the most impactful way to do that in future once the network's very successful, but we can leave that to CFOs for the future. Well, here's an interesting one. So can we do an airdrop to pre-AGI ADA stakers, to people staking right now, so that the amount they've earned staking would be multiplied more? So the question there is, if we're going to give increased staking rewards to folks staking use AGI ADA, can we retroactively give those increased staking rewards to people who are staking right now, like back pay? I mean, that seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I mean, I don't see anything unethical or bad about it. At this moment, I would like to respect and reward our stakers. So I mean, let's. I don't want to say totally yes on the fly, but in this AMA, but let's take that up for discussion on the community list. Proposal modification. Are we open to modifications by the community? Well, so we've been discussing this in the community for some time. I mean, days, not insanely long time, but I think actually we've incorporated what I thought were the best suggestions from the community. Mainly, in the initial version of this proposal, the billion new tokens were to be released in equal monthly tranches over 5 years, and Jen, one of the contributors on our Telegram groups, suggested, well, why not do like a exponentially decreasing amount of tokens? I mean, he gave the example of yearly decrease, but of course he was just trying to put forth the idea. So I thought that suggestion was actually a very wise one, and I sort of kicked myself for not doing it that way in the first place, right? So that was good. That's good collective thinking by the group brain of the community, and so we refactored the proposal to have 15 million tokens initially, and then decrease by 1.5% each month. So after 91 years, it becomes a billion, and I think that removes the worries some people were having. Well, won't you just want to mint more after 5 years? I mean, the intention was always that the foundation would be stockpiling some tokens so that it wouldn't be done after 5 years. But I mean, this sort of wires that same dynamic into the tokenomic logic, which I think is the right way to do it. I mean, it's consilient with what we've done in other parts of the proposal, where we're wiring 5% for staking pool and 3% for reputation rewards and so forth. So I think we have been taking community feedback into account, which has been actually quite worthwhile. I mean, there's a lot of insane garbage and tedious stuff in online discussions about anything, including crypto tokens. But there's some gems that come out of it that make clear why it's worthwhile to undertake the effort of community discussion. So yeah, I've got to go soon and get my kid from preschool, although we're not done with everything. But I want to. Someone asked a question that I can't resist asking, which is what is the roadmap of phase 2? I mean, of course, this is in the document, but let me very briefly walk through this document. So I'm not going all the way to the singularity in 2020-45 here. We're going just like 4 to 5 years, but I think that's should be enough to give a flavor, right? So looking 2021, we're already working on a lot of platform improvements, most of which are oriented toward fostering layer 2. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Platform isn't a strong beta; it's not in 1.0 yet, and we can bring it there this year. 2022, I mean, starting serious work on infrastructure as a service, which I'll talk about in a moment. I mean, finally integrating the full reputation system that Anton Colonna and Debbie Dong, others, and I worked on, and we should see the layer 2 projects like really roll out and grow and reach maturity, start getting a lot of traction. And after that, I mean, the big things are we need infrastructure as a service so that SingularityNet can scale to large numbers of agents without relying on like AWS or Azure or Alibaba or something on the back end. We need decentralized infrastructure as a service. And OpenCog Hyperon, which is the new version of our OpenCog AI system, we need to scale it up massively by integrating it with AI DSL and with SingularityNet layer 2. And this will give a sort of AGI general intelligence backbone that can be relied on by all the agents running on SingularityNet. And I mean, as that reaches maturity, I mean, this is when things get really, really interesting, right? So I mean, this if you're curious and have a little technical background, I mean, look at the end of the SingularityNet Phase 2 document, but heck of a lot of platform improvements. I mean, some of which are technical, some of which are more obvious, like we need to finally work through all these regulatory hassles across jurisdictions and get the full fiat crypto gateway out there. Initial version of AI DSL together with like a service ontology for AI agents to describe what they're doing. I mean, we need smart contracts with tiered processing, different kinds of licensing. We need the daemon underlying services to be more robust and use concurrent processing. And I mean, we need to make it much easier. I mean, the goal is like one click to post your agent on the network. We're not really going to get to one click, but I mean, we need to make it much easier to publish new services, update new services, register in the publisher portal. And if we need to make templates, so like if you have a service that uses a trained ML model, just make it really simple to upload that and make an agent running your trained ML model. So if the service matches a certain number of templates, then you can get very, very close to one-click deployment. And we need to integrate with various widget ecosystems. I mean, we have a Google Docs plugin that we haven't rolled out yet, and some WordPress plugins. And so we need to get that started. I mean, we need to make plugins for Shopify and all sorts of things too, so to make it much easier for SingularityNet AI to be used commercially in these ways. And finally, roll out the reputation system on the platform, right? Which is we've prototyped a lot, but we haven't fully integrated it. It's only useful once you have more traction, but that's exactly what we're looking at here, right? And then, as was mentioned, beefing up our simulation framework, which is needed for modeling the tokenomics, but also for presenting economic attacks. And we're looking at this a lot in a Singularity DAO context, because it's a big problem with DeFi networks is economic attacks that allow theft of funds, right? So, but the same simulations we're doing in Singularity DAO can be very useful here. And then all the layer 2 networks we've been talking about, I mean, these are all prototype and pre-alpha stage. We want to roll these out one after the other on the AGI ADA network. A bunch of these will be Cardano native assets. I mean, the robot things, we have a few robots built now. We won't have super massive scale production until 2022, but by end of 2021, there should be a bunch of like deployed Grace humanoid robots out there actually serving the elderly in some facilities using SingularityNet and the AGI ADA token calls on the back end, right? So 2022, we should be able to get things massively scalable, right? Some of the AI DSL should be rolled out at scale. We should be able to refactor things so more of the platform works the same, whether you're on Ethereum, Cardano, NEM, or whatever it is, like blockchain agnosticism deep inside the platform, which is just good software architecture. Even if it's all Cardano, it's good software architecture. And Toda, I haven't been talking about much lately, but I've been working a lot behind the scenes with Tufi and Dan Tolliver. We've been even looking at how you would integrate Toda in the guts of Cardano within SingularityNet on Cardano, because I think if you want to go to microservices where you have AI agents being spawned like within each second and all interoperating with each other, I mean that's that's an area where current version of Cardano won't do it. Some future versions may, but Cardano on Toda, I think, could be really powerful for microservices and sort of a, high turnover agent systems on SingularityNet. And I mean, we need at this stage to be making really good AI developer tools, so as to make SingularityNet platform highly appealing to AI developers who don't care that much about blockchain. And we need the more sophisticated bits of reputation system, machine learning driven reputation police, and the matchmaking bots that use the AI DSL to automatically find what AI services are going to be best for you based on combination of different criteria. And we need to go toward infrastructure as a service. I mean, we need tools so that anyone with a server farm can put a bunch of SingularityNet agents on their server farm, and they can run it cheaper, and better than AWS. So we need this for centralized cloud providers and for decentralized cloud services, right? We need tools to automate scaling, load balancing, for managing like fleets of AI services that are put on by a single provider, for aggregating a whole bunch of third-party services into a whole organization. I mean, all this stuff is there on AWS and on Azure now, and you need all that there on decentralized clouds, or it doesn't become viable really for SingularityNet to be a scalable competitor to scalable AI. I mean, to scalable infrastructure providers like an Azure or Alibaba or Amazon. I mean, this stuff isn't about AI. It's not my personal area of expertise, but I mean, in the end, it's not about blockchain, but you need all this infrastructure, customized for the AI and blockchain, or in the end, a SingularityNet decentralized network isn't competitive with it's not competitive with Amazon or Google. And this, by the way, is stuff that's hard for us to get done as a side effect of working on the sort of commercially funded projects back-ended on SingularityNet, right? Because I mean, if phase 2 were to not go through, we can still make simple platform improvements, and we can still do AI. We can use platform within commercial projects. We can build out the platform as we go. But building out infrastructure as a service in a way that makes decentralized AI, as scalable and as usable as centralized AI on Google or Amazon. I mean, that simply takes, a chunk of tokens to fund developers to work just on that for a few years. I mean, Amazon and Microsoft have armies of well-paid developers working on this stuff. If we want to compete with them to build the AI infrastructure of the planet, I mean, this that just takes paying highly competent people who are not necessarily blockchain or AGI enthusiasts, even, who are just really good infrastructure developers. I'm sitting here right now on an island in Puget Sound near Seattle. There's a hell of a lot of Amazon and Microsoft alumni who would love to come on board for this stuff if we have the tokens to incentivize them. And I mean, then I mean, the sky's the limit, because if we're as scalable as and cheaper than centralized providers for large-scale AI services, and we have unique AI running on there, and we have all these tools for data sovereignty and privacy and encryption, I mean, then we really can do to Microsoft and Google what these guys did to Wang and Honeywell and IBM. I mean, it's all possible. It just needs the tokenomic firepower to fuel the software development that will allow the network to withstand the traction that we're aiming to grow, right? So, question that came in real time: we'll be able to do tons of microtransactions on Cardano for a low fee. I'm discussing that with some of the Cardano platform team right now. So they absolutely are on a path where they intend to enable that. I mean, they cannot right now. The fee is too high for really high speed microservices. They're looking at various ways to bring it down. I've given them some brainstorms. So it can be an interesting collaboration back and forth. I think that ultimately, if they don't get there another way, TOTA IP is a secret weapon, because TOTA protocol gets faster and faster the more agents you have on it, which is different than most blockchains. And I've worked out a bunch of the math and software design for how you put TOTA IP inside Cardano with SingularityNet on top of it. So, but that's not necessarily the only way, right? So, I think we will keep improving our layer 2 networks and making a whole management suite for people who want to put layer 2 networks on top of SingularityNet. And each layer 2 network will pay some transaction fees in AGI token into SingularityNet, right? So you're getting not only usage of AGI token for outsourcing AI services onto the network, but I mean you're getting transaction fees, which are then used to pay for reputation and security against economic attacks and so forth. And I mean, as we get OpenCog Hyperon with neural symbolic general intelligence rolled out on here, I mean, then there's another reason to put your AI service on the network, right? It's not only that there's a market there and that we have infrastructure as a service, which is as good as but cheaper than that on the centralized providers. It's that we have OpenCog Hyperon AI services, which your AI agent can call on to get more generalization and inference and reasoning, right? So that's like that's the secret weapon wrapped inside the secret weapon wrapped inside the secret weapon, right? And so then we get into 23 to 25, which is when I'm projecting we see really, really dramatic utilization growth. I mean, this is where, I mean, you could quite plausibly get into like a $500 million US or $1 billion US of transactions each year on the network from layer 2 networks really taking off. I mean, you could get to literally trillions of API calls on the network. And with OpenCog Hyperon serving as a cognitive core here, I mean, then you really have the potential for general intelligence to start emerging. You have Sophia DAO, you have Awakening, you have Hyperon on the back end, you have a huge amount of third-party AIs running on the platform, and these are all coming together into a network where the AI DSL lets the different AI agents all interoperate. I mean, this is where we've been aiming at from the beginning. There's a lot of steps still to go, but on the other hand, we now understand far better what all the steps are and need to be than we did in 2017, right? Because I mean, it's been a learning experience about how to make decentralized AI and what really needs to be done, as well as a learning experience about crypto markets and the treasury management and a hell of a lot of other things. So yeah, I must go and pick up a 3-year-old from preschool, or I would probably keep on going on way longer. I'm gonna bring him back his hat now too. So and thanks for anyone who has listened to this marathon AMA, and apologies to those whose questions I didn't get to. I tried to go through almost everything, but some of the questions obviously inspired lengthy responses. Logging off now, and thanks everyone. And yeah, so please follow SingularityNet at our website, SingularityNet.io. Subscribe to the newsletter. You know, if you are an AGI token holder who's bought our utility token, I mean, that's great. We're going to build more and more amazing uses of that token on the platform as we go forward. And I would encourage you to vote, take part in the democratic decision-making process. The voting portal will be open in a few days, and information for that is on our SingularityNet.io website as well. So yeah, thanks everyone.